Hi there. Welcome back to Exit to Excel. I'm LT, your host, and I have my co host here taking a nap. So, look, if you checked out my last episode, you are aware that we named something that a lot of people are experiencing today, but very few HR people and very few workplaces and leaders are willing to say it aloud. It is the forever layoff. And it is the constant low sense of security, the feeling of stability that is temporary, and it is the awareness of being employed no longer necessarily means that you're being safe. But today we're going to go from naming the problem to responding it, not with fear, not with hustle, and definitely not with spraying and praying, applying for more jobs. Today, we're going to build an agency in a system that no longer guarantees stability. But let's start with a hard truth. In today's workplace, loyalty is no longer a protection strategy. Let me say that again for the person who needs to hear that. Loyalty is no longer a protection strategy. Now, this doesn't mean that you should not care about your work. And it doesn't mean that you should disengage or do the bare minimum. But what it does mean is that you need to get your priorities in order. I tell people all the time, um, don't work when you're sick as a dog because of your loyalty to the company. Don't miss your children's milestone events, their recitals, your PTA meetings because of your loyalty to the company. Because at the end of the day, the company is going to do what is in its best interest. I've seen it all the time. I remember when I was working on this episode, I remember I was working on I was in HR for HR. So I supported the HR organization. And I was working on a very critical, highly sensitive investigation involving some of the HR leaders who reported directly to the chief HR officer. The company we were on a campus, so you had multiple buildings that you either had to take like a shuttle or drive. So I was riding with the chief HR officer to one of the other buildings to meet with the leader to give them an update on the investigation. We met with him and we came back. We were sitting in the garage chatting about the meeting, and talking about some stuff. I think maybe the holidays were coming up and we were just, chit chatting about our plans or whatever. I mean, I spent like 2 hours with her this day and continued to meet with her as I was working on the investigation. Well, lo and behold, it wasn't even a month later, I was impacted. They had let me go. And I think my coworker was more bothered by it than I was. I think for me, I was just in shock of being let go, period. But she kept talking about, Latanya, you worked on this investigation. You were meeting with her on a regular basis and you guys had this relationship and they let you go. Like she could have stopped that. Like she had a say in that. And to this day, she cannot let it go. And I remember another coworker of ours, also in HR, she made the statement of, I know you want to believe. And we still kind of, now mind you, this was almost what, 15, 20 years ago. And we still say that to one another. I know you want to believe. And so I'm talking to someone right now who needs to hear this. I know you want to believe that you are safe. I know you want to believe that they would never get rid of you. But As they say never. I've seen people be let go when hard decisions have to be made, and it isn't personal. So, what this means is that your career safety can no longer reside or live entirely inside your employer. You have to have options. You have to keep your resume quietly updated because at the end of the day, there's no such thing as safe companies anymore. There used to be, right? But we've seen companies in existence for 40, 50 years all of a sudden in business. We've seen it, right? So instead of safe companies today, we have safer positions, stronger options, and clearer signals. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Welcome. If this is your first time coming, this is Exit to Excel, where we talk about the things that are going on in these conference rooms in your companies, where we talk about career strategies to help you land the jobs that you want and deserve. So if you have not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this with someone who can use this information. Follow me on my social media. That's Exit to Excel on TikTok and Instagram. And you can follow me on LinkedIn under Latanya Shaw. So let's talk about this forever layoff and the strategy that we need to use going forward. So the first shift in the strategy, and again, we're talking about, your mindset and the things we need to do, is the first shift I want you to talk about is, stop asking yourself, am I doing enough? Because it's never about what you're doing or what you're not doing, but it is about how exposed is your role. Okay. This is what I call role risk evaluation because not all jobs carry the same level of risk, even within the same organization. So I want you to ask yourself three things. One is my role directly tied to revenue or is it seen as overhead? Now, HR, that's overhead because we're not bringing in revenue. And most jobs, I think you'll know automatically, but if you don't know, have a conversation with your manager to find out, is it directly tied to revenue or is it seen as overhead? Question number two, if budget cuts were cut tomorrow, would your work stop or would it shift? Now, working in a global company, I'm sure everyone is aware of how most work is pushed offshore because it's cheaper. That's just a fact of the matter, right? And we have seen constant shifts of work being moved offshore. So ask yourself very, objectively, could my work be moved either offshore or somewhere else? Also, third question, ask yourself, am I one of many doing the same thing or one of a few who can do this work very well? It makes a big difference. Now, I want you to answer these questions objectively. And I, as a my best friend's father said to me one time, and I'll never forget, I use all the time. We are all legends in our own mind. Okay. So to protect yourself, be very objective about these questions because it isn't about ego, but it is about visibility and leverage. Okay. I remember years ago when a company I was working for was acquired. And at the time, I was wanting to go into a center of excellence. I was wanting to move into learning and development. And at the time, I was the only HR business partner um, for my division, so to speak. We were going to be assumed and become a vertical in the new company. And I remember my boss at the time who was transitioning out, she told me, Latanya, think about it. You are the only HR business partner supporting this organization. If you move to learning and development, you're moving to a larger team, which is going to make you more vulnerable for being separated. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And that is how I've kind of looked at things going forward. Am I one of many doing the same thing? Or am I the only one or one of the few that can do this very well or is doing it at all? So, those are the questions you need to ask yourself because at the end of the day, high performers will get laid off when their role is considered expendable and when costs need to be cut. So, let's talk about the next shift. You cannot rely on performance alone. You need optionality. So, what do I mean by that? Optionality is when you have choices before you're forced to take them. So, what does this look like? This is keeping your resume quietly current, maintaining relationships outside of your company, and knowing what your skills are worth in the market before you need to find out. Now, I have a friend of mine who he works, well, he focuses primarily on people who are quietly searching and hits on all of these things. His name is Eddie Johnson, based out of Atlanta. You can find him on LinkedIn, where he is also giving tips about silently searching. So check him out. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about being disloyal, but it is about professional adulthood in this new world that we're living in. Now, another critical shift is how to relate to AI. Now, this is an important one. And I guess because I'm so pro AI is kind of near and dear to my heart because there are so many people who are still anti AI. Um some people think it's almost like the devil reincarnate. But this is the deal. And this is why I try to get people to understand. AI, one, is not going anywhere. AI is, if you use it right, and I'm not saying that there aren't any bad characters out there using AI badly, or that there are some things that still need to be worked out with AI. But at the end of the day, AI is AI can absolutely help you work smarter, better, and faster. And the truth of the matter is that AI can do some jobs a lot better than humans do. And AI doesn't call in sick or need to take PTO. So it isn't just a tool, but it's actually a redistribution of work. So today, roles are not always eliminated, but sometimes they're compressed. And now you can have one person that is able to do the job of two and three people, often without a title change or a compensation adjustment because they can do their job better with AI. So the question isn't, will AI replace me? The better question is, how do I become the person who directs the work instead of being consumed by it? So, what this means is learning how to use AI in your role to increase your output without burning out. How do you position yourself as someone who improves systems and not just completes tasks? And then finally, how do you learn or being able to learn how to speak fluently about impact and not just your effort? I have so many people, this used to drive me crazy. Oh, I have 100 unread emails. Oh, I have that doesn't speak to your impact. So stop focusing on back to back meetings, how many emails you have to answer, and start speaking fluently about impact. Now, let's talk about the most important shift of all. You need a career stability system and not just a job search plan. A job search plan is reactive, but a stability system is proactive. Now, a stability system includes a clear understanding of your transferable strengths. It includes a professional narrative that travels well across roles and industries. It is a system that includes relationships that don't depend on your current title or your current company. And it includes a personal operating plan for uncertainty. This is how you stay grounded when organizations are not. But let me just say this very clearly. The goal of all of this is not to live in fear, but it is to live in clarity. Because when you understand the system, you then stop internalizing the chaos and the confusion and the anxiety. You stop asking yourself, what's wrong with me? And you start asking, well, what's my next smart move? This is when you start getting your confidence back. This is when you start getting your mojo back. And it's not because the market has gotten any calmer, but it is because you are now prepared. Now, part one, where we named a thing, where we understood, got better understanding of what it was, that was about naming the injury. This is about regaining your footing. You know what the injury is. Now we're going to deal with it and we're going to get our footing so that you don't have to, be panicked. You don't need to disappear and you don't need to pretend that this isn't happening because you need a plan that deals with reality. And that's exactly what we are doing here at Exit to Excel. Now, again, if you want to go deeper in terms of what this looks like and how it works and all the things that it encompasses, then join my free webinar on Thursday, December the 18th. Due to popular demand, I've added an additional session at 11 a.m. so that we can talk about how to prepare ourselves in 2026, build proactive strategies, evaluate role risk, and create career stability in a very unstable job market. Because at the end of the day, I keep saying this, you're not behind, you're not broken, and you are now navigating a very challenging system where everything has changed. But we're going to deal with it and we're going to learn how to move through it on our own terms so that we can exit to excel. So that is it for today's episode. Thank you for joining me. Again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button. For those of you that have already been along on my journey, I thank you. I appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to some great things in 2026. Take care.